When we're looking at touchdowns all time, Blake Bortles again, same year, had 35 touchdown passes. I do see Trevor Lawrence possibly breaking that touchdown passes record this year. That'll be fun to watch to see if it happens. Welcome to Just the Stats NFL, the show that covers the NFL statistical leaders from the all-time greats to the current players leading the NFL. I am Ernie Jennings, your host. I'm back looking at another team from the AFC South. We're getting close to wrapping it up. We're halfway through. This will be the third out of four teams in this division. Before I get going, I want to apologize for the past two episodes. I was trying something different. As I am new to podcasting, I was trying something different with the mics, and it didn't work very well. So I'm back to this for the time being, and then we'll see how it goes from there as I experiment with new equipment, things like that. So as far as the AFC South goes, we're talking about the third place Jacksonville Jaguars. That is my team, since I do live in Jacksonville. Sadly, it's been rough following the Jaguars over the past, ever since actually Tom Coughlin left in 2002. It's been a very hit and miss type of thing, more misses, and some of the misses have been quite dramatic and awful. But anyway, was last year, the Jaguars finished the season with a record of 4-13. At home, they were 3-5. So 3 out of their 4 wins were at home. On the road, 1-8, and in the division, 3-3. So we're going to look at the Jaguars and see how they fared in comparison to past Jaguar players, past the greatest Jaguar players of all time. We'll see how they did. All right. So beginning with the coaches, and believe it or not, interestingly, Jack Del Rio, who was the coach from 2003 to 2011, actually took over for Tom Coughlin, who was the coach from 1995 when the team started until 2002. They both have 68 wins apiece. The difference is Jack Del Rio has 71 losses. Tom Coughlin only has 60. Tom Coughlin was a great coach, as you can tell when he went to the Giants and won a couple of Super Bowls. He came close here to playoffs. Titans were always the nemesis. But the big difference between Del Rio and Coughlin was Coughlin started the team from scratch, so obviously he had a bad season to start with the first season, but then kept the team competitive after that. Another big difference is that in the 8 years that Del Rio was the coach, 3 playoff games, 1 win. Tom Coughlin, same time period, basically 7 years, 8 playoff games, 4 wins. So more than double the playoff games. Never made it to the Super Bowl, but still much better. Then you go down the list, a couple of other ones. It's just been a myriad of. Peterson had 22 wins. He's gone as the previous coach. Now we have Liam Cohen. We're hoping for big things with that. As a Jaguar fan, I hate to get too excited. I thought Urban Meyer would be a decent coach. I thought Doug Peterson would be a decent coach. And it just didn't happen. Urban Meyer was a fiasco, and Peterson just didn't seem to have the spark that he used to have. So hoping with this young coach, young GM, a fairly young team, that we can see some really good movement this year, 2025 and on. So we got Liam Cohen, no wins. And as I said, if he could be the coach and stick with the team longer than these other players, other coaches, I would expect to see him someday being the best coach the Jaguars have ever had. All right. So moving on from the coaches, let's look at the players. All time, Mark Brunell is the all-time leader in passing yards for the Jaguars. from 1995 to 2003. So he was the quarterback. He didn't start right away, but once he did, he never left. And he ended up with 25,698 yards. Blake Bortles from 2014 to 2018 was second with 17,646. Now, you have David Garrard third, 16,003 yards. And then Trevor Lawrence is fourth with 13,815. There's no reason that Trevor Lawrence, except for health, should not be able to pass even all the way up to Blake Bortles and move into second all time. But we'll see. If he can just stay healthy, and we've improved the offensive weapons, I believe. Offensive line's a little bit better, and with a more dynamic play caller, hope to see him really move up this list. So that's in yards. When you're looking at touchdowns, Mark Brunell also heads up this list with 144 touchdowns. Blake Bortles is second with 103. Trevor Lawrence he's fourth with 69. So a lot of people are hoping he breaks the record here of 35 touchdowns in a season. Even if he did that, he would move up into second place, but that'd be the best I think he can do. David Garrard's third with 89, so Trevor Lawrence only needs 21 touchdown passes to pass David Garrard. So we'll see if that happens. When we're looking at interceptions, again, it's Mark Brunell over Blake Bortles. Mark Brunell had 86. Blake Bortles had 75. And again, Trevor Lawrence is fourth behind David Garrard. So those are your top four. And if I was to throw in a fifth, Byron left, which was fifth in every category as well. But so 85, 86 for Brunell, 75 for Bortles, and Trevor Lawrence has 46 interceptions. So they all throw fairly close. Blake Bortles was a little higher on an interception percent rate, but they all throw around 2.4. Trevor Lawrence 2.3. So we'll see how that goes. I'm sure if Trevor Lawrence can stay here and be the quarterback for many years to come, and in fact retire with the team, he'll have every record that this team has. When it comes to being sacked, again, Mark Brunell by quite a bit, actually, even over Blake Bortles. But Mark Brunell had 333 times he was sacked. Blake Bortles, 195. And again, David Garrard, 179, and Trevor Lawrence, 112. I don't expect to see Trevor Lawrence even pass David Garrard this year. If he did, that'd be terrible. He would end up tying somebody like Caleb Williams, who got sacked 68 times last season. So we don't want to see that at all as far as that goes. So those are your quarterback stats. All right. Let's move on to the running game and see how that looks. And leading up, the Jaguars isn't close to Hall of Famer Fred Taylor. I think if he had one more good season, he might have made it and had a few more touchdowns. But Fred Taylor, from 1998 to 2008, had 11,271 rushing yards. Maurice Jones-Drew, from 2006 to 2013, had 8,071. And after that, you got Travis Etienne with 2,691. So a long ways away. And the Jaguars, as far as the running game goes, going into 2025, there's 4 running backs, and it's up in the air. It seems to be some people are thinking Etienne will continue to be the starter. I've heard his name. I've heard Bigsby, and then the new guy, Juden. So we'll just see how it goes. I really think it's up to Etienne. If he has another year like he did last year, he will not be the starting quarterback or running back very long. So we'll just have to see how that goes. But right now, Fred Taylor, number 1. And this is where Fred Taylor falls down a little bit, is that in a shorter period of time, Maurice Jones-Drew leads the Jaguars in touchdowns with 68 rushing touchdowns to Fred Taylor's 62. Travis Etienne's 5th with 18. so quite a ways away. And I really don't expect to see him move. He could move past Stacey Mack, who is fourth with 19. That would be it. He won't pass James Stewart, who's third with 33. If he did be one of the best seasons he's ever had, he'd have to have 15 to tie James Stewart. And not that it's impossible, but I just don't see it happening as far as that goes. So, I mean, so those are your running backs. Really, Fred Taylor was a great player. Maurice Jones-Drew was really, really good for a couple of years, led the NFL one year in rushing, so was a good player. When we look at the receivers, Jimmy Smith and Keenan McCardell topped the list, and Jimmy Smith by far also came in on the team in its first year, its infancy year. From 1995 to 2005, Jimmy Smith had 12,287 yards. Again, another player who was borderline Hall of Fame. I just don't think he's quite there, and it's the same reason I think as Fred Taylor. And we'll look at that in a minute. But Jimmy Smith was number one. Keenan McCardell is number two. From 1996 to 2001, he has 6,393 yards. Those are the top two. And again, currently, well, Christian Kirk was moving up the list. He's gone now. So, and Evan Ingram was moving up the list. He's gone. Brian Thomas had an amazing year. It's already 24th all time for the Jaguars, but he's only got 1,282 yards, which as a rookie in 1 year, that led to the rookies last year in the NFL. So impressive. But he will be the guy, and we'll see what Travis Hunter, 1 year behind him. Those two, it'd be great if they were a replacement for Smith and McCardell. Not that they're exactly the same type of players, but if you could have two receivers play year in, year out, that would could really help the Jaguars be a really good team. And if Trevor Lawrence can show any of that franchise quarterback nature that everybody was hoping for, you could see a very good offense for the Jaguars. But it's all if. So we'll just have to see. When it comes to receptions, Jimmy Smith, again, 862 receptions, a long ways over Keenan McCardell, who had 499. Those are your top two. And interestingly, Keenan McCardell, when you look at all time, he played in other teams. He's actually got just a few more receptions than Jimmy Smith, but those are the top two for the Jaguars. And again, Evan Ingram was moving up the list. He's gone. So you just don't have anybody. Christian Kirk, again, was moving up. So right now you're stuck with, you have the running back, Travis Etienne, who's 23rd. He's the highest player right now with 132 receptions. So there's nobody even threatening this kind of thing. Now we're going to have Thomas for several years, so it'll be impressive to see how he does year in, year out. He'll be the guy to watch. He already had 87 in his rookie season. So there's no reason I can see that he may not get 100 receptions, but we'll see how it goes. He's a really good player. So those are your top as far as receptions and yards go. And here's where Jimmy Smith had the problem is he had 67 touchdown receptions, whereas most of your Hall of Famers have a lot more than 67. He does lead the Jaguars with a 67 by far. Mercedes Lewis had 33 when he was with the team from 2006 to 2017. He's been around a long time. Those are your top two. And again, as I said, everybody's left. Christian Kirk had 12 in the time he was here. Now, what's interesting is Brian Thomas already, and as a rookie, had 10 touchdown receptions. So 3 seasons, he could move up to second all time if he has that kind of a pace, 10, 11 touchdowns. So he's going to be fun to watch. And the team will be with Travis Hunter and Brian Thomas as the wide receivers. When looking at tight ends, again, as far as receptions go, it's Mercedes Lewis pretty much in most of these categories. He led the receivers as far as tight ends go with 375 receptions. Kyle Brady, who was here earlier than he was and left the year Mercedes Lewis came in, was second with 241. So those are your top as far as receivers go, and it's the same with yards. Mercedes Lewis is third on the team with 4,502 yards, quite a bit more than Kyle Brady, who's second with 2,500. And the same with touchdowns. Mercedes Lewis leads tight ends. He's got 33 as far as tight ends go, and Kyle Brady has 13. So really, Mercedes Lewis, for a while there, was catching passes. If you watch him the last couple of years, he catch one or two passes. He's a great blocker, though. So teams like to have him as far as that went. But he has moved around a little bit. When we're looking at the running backs, Maurice Jones-Drew again, in his short time, passed Fred Taylor by quite a bit, even though Fred Taylor played for the team longer. But Maurice Jones-Drew had 335 receptions as a running back. Fred Taylor was second with 286. So those are the top two. And even though Travis Etienne's been on the team 3 years, he's got 132 receptions. So we'll just see what happens with him. I mean, if he really has a good year, team renews his contract, you could see him someday maybe catch Maurice Jones-Drew, but not right now. And it's the same with yards. Maurice Jones-Drew is fourth all time as far as yards go, and number one as far as running backs go with 2,873. So really not that many yards per se, but he is the number one running back. Travis Etienne only has 1,046. And this is where, as far as touchdowns go, as far as receptions and your running back, it's Maurice Jones-Drew had 11 touchdown receptions. Maurice Jones-Drew really did get a lot of touchdowns, running, receiving, not bad, 11 in his time with the Jaguars. So he leads the team as far as that goes as well. Fred Taylor had 8 touchdown receptions in his career. So those are your top ones as far as the rushing goes. So let's look at the career leaders in the defense, see how that looks. When we're looking at the interception leaders all time, it's Rashean Mathis by quite a bit. He had 30 interceptions in his career with the Jaguars from 2003 to 2012. Aaron Beasley was second with only 15 from 1996 to 2001. So definitely an area where you could see some improvement. I mean, Jalen Ramsey, who's still whether he's going to be at Miami or maybe move to the Rams or whatever, he was sixth with 9. Andre Cisco, who was with the team last year but is no longer with the team, had 8. So the next one up, quite a ways away, is Tyson Campbell. Really good. We'll see how he does. But he didn't have any last year, but he had 6. So a long ways from Rashean Mathis is 30. So we'll see what happens with that, but I don't see anything happening anytime soon. Nothing you have to watch right now to see what happens. Now, when we're talking about tackles for loss now, and again, this is a newer team, but they don't have anybody that's up there anywhere near all-time status. But right now, just last year, Josh Hines-Allen passed John Henderson for the most tackles for loss. Josh Hines-Allen has 63 tackles for loss. Henderson, who played from 2002 to 2009, had 58. Those are the top two. So Josh Hines-Allen's just going to continue extending his record out as far as that goes. So there's no one near him. Now, the newer player, 3 years later than Josh Hines-Allen, is Trayvon Walker, who's also another great defensive end. He's got 28 tackles for loss, but he's only been on the team since 22. So those will be the two to watch. And Loyakon, but he's a linebacker. He has 26 tackles for loss. And he came in at the same time as Trayvon Walker. So those will be the ones to watch when it comes to tackles for loss. As far as sacks go, this is something that'll be fun to watch because you will see, you should see, if Josh Hines-Allen doesn't get hurt, he'll break the record for most sacks by a Jaguar. Right now, he has 53, and he's 2 behind Tony Brackens, who has 55. So Tony Brackens was with the team from 1996 to 2003. So right now he's held the record for 22 years, but this will be it. Two sacks, and Josh Hines-Allen will have the tackles for loss record and the sack record. So that'll be something to watch. Trayvon Walker's already number 9 on the team. He has 24 sacks. So it'll be great to see the two of them playing continuously and watch them both move up this list. Like I said, Trayvon Walker's 3 years behind Josh Hines-Allen, so it'll be fun to watch those two. Expecting big years on the defense this year compared to last year. No one can explain the coaching of last year as far as the defense goes. One of their grand ideas was to have the Jaguars defensive players gain weight, and it really took them out of their natural comfort zone as far as their weight goes, and so they're back down to the playing weight where they really had much better seasons. So we'll see how that works for them, and hopefully it's a lot better than it was before. All right, let's look at single season records, and we'll go back to the passing game. So all time, Blake Bortles holds the record. In 2015, he had 4,428 yards. Mark Brunell in 1996 had 4,367 yards. And if you play fantasy football, you know why Blake Bortles probably broke the record, because we spent so much time playing from behind and trying to play catch up that he had so many junk yards that it was incredible. The year in 2015 when Blake Bortles threw for those 4,428 yards, their team was 5-11. So we were always playing from behind. Trevor Lawrence's best year was in 2022 when he had 4,113. And even the next year he had over 4,000. Last year was a bad year. He didn't even play the whole season. So he ended up with 2,045 yards. Mac Jones, who came in to replace him, had 1,600 yards, 1,672. So between the two of them, they had about 3,700 yards. Still wouldn't have moved. It would have put them at 6th all time as far as Jaguars go, but nothing impressive. So when you're looking at comparing that to the rest of the NFL last season, obviously with that kind of numbers, Trevor Lawrence was only 29th, but again, he only played 10 games. Joe Burrow led the league with 4,918 yards, so he was the number one quarterback in that category. When we're looking at touchdowns all time, Blake Bortles again, same year, had 35 touchdown passes. Trevor Lawrence is second, and in 2022, Trevor Lawrence had 25 touchdown passes. I honestly believe with this new offense and the better coaching, and hopefully a team just with 2 great wide receivers, if Travis Hunter turns out to be that as great as everybody's anticipating, I do see Trevor Lawrence possibly breaking that touchdown passes record this year. That'll be fun to watch to see if it happens. So he'd have to get 10 more than he's ever got, or 11 more to break the record, but we'll see. I just don't think it's impossible. When it comes to just last year, though, Trevor Lawrence threw 11 touchdown passes. So really, but again, 10 games. But still, he was throwing at a lower rate than he had his better year. And again, it was Joe Burrow who had 43 touchdowns last season as far as the entire NFL goes. he led the NFL. In fact, there was only 3 quarterbacks that threw for more than 40. Baker Mayfield and Lamar Jackson had 41. But when you're talking about the 35 in a season, 5 quarterbacks threw 35 or more. So I think it's possible for Trevor Lawrence to break that record. But we'll see. When looking at interceptions, Mark Brunell in 1996 threw 20 interceptions. Blake Bortles in 2015, that same year when he had the yards and the touchdowns, had 18 interceptions. So kind of Mark Brunell, when he threw 20 interceptions, had 19 touchdown passes. Not a good ratio. While Blake Bortles had 35 touchdowns and 18 interceptions. Still not really good, but definitely better than that. Trevor Lawrence is 2021. He had 17 interceptions and 12 touchdowns. So room for improvement, but that was in 2021. So we'll see how it goes. All right. And then comparing that as far as interceptions last season, Baker Mayfield and Kirk Cousins both had 16 interceptions. So they led the NFL. Mac Jones had 8 for the Jaguars last season, while Trevor Lawrence had 7. So between them, they had 15 interceptions. Nothing that you want to really see. So Mac Jones would end up 24th in that category. And one other season stat that we want to look at is the quarterback. How many times was the quarterback sacked in a season? And, Caleb Williams is one of the record holders now, when he was sacked last season for 68 times, which puts him third all time as far as being sacked goes. But Mark Brunell was sacked 57 times in 2001. Blake Bortles, 2014, the year before his big year, he was sacked 55 times. Those are your top 2. Fortunately, Trevor Lawrence isn't up that high. His worst season, he had 35 times that he was sacked. So much better numbers as far as that goes. Mark Brunell was sacked at almost an 11% rate. That's not good, but he was a tough guy. Trevor Lawrence has been sacked at a 5.8% rate. So less than half of Mark Brunell's rate. So looking at the sacks, like I said, Caleb Williams led the NFL last season with 68, quite a ways over C.J. Stroud, who was second with 52. Those are your top 2 when it comes to sacks, a category that you never want to be leading in. Trevor Lawrence was sacked 18 times in 10 games. So really sacked about the same rate he's always been sacked at. Hopefully we'll see an improvement over that with hopefully a better offensive line going into this next season. All right, those are your single season stats. Let's look at the running backs and see who leads the Jaguars in that category. And that would be Maurice Jones-Drew over Fred Taylor. Maurice Jones-Drew in 2011 had 1,606 yards rushing. Fred Taylor in 2003 had 1,572. Those are the top 2. And in fact, Fred Taylor and Maurice Jones-Drew hold the top 9 spots. Travis Etienne in 2022, his first year, had 1,125 yards. So it wasn't bad. Started 12 games, so not bad. 2023, he had 1,008 yards, Travis Etienne. But then last year, it was abysmal. Tank Bigsby actually led the team with 766 yards, and Travis Etienne had 558. Really a big drop-off. I mean, not so much for Tank Bigsby because he's always been the backup, and he rushed for a 4.6-yard average, while Etienne had dropped to a 3.7 yards per rushing attempt. Just really abysmal this last season as far as the running games go. And so we'll just see how it looks going into 2025 and who ends up being the starting quarterback or running back. When you compare that to the rest of the NFL with Saquon Barkley at 2,005 yards by himself, you combine Bigsby and ETN, you have 1,400 yards, just about 13 something. So really not too good. As a combo, it put him somewhere between 5th and 6th spot all in the entire NFL. Saquon Barkley had 2,005. Derrick Henry had 1,921. So those are your two top running backs as far as yards go. When we're looking at touchdowns in a single season, again, Maurice Jones-Drew had 15 in 2009. Fred Taylor in 1998 had 14. And the only one, James Stewart had 13 one year, so did Drew. In 1999, James Stewart had 13. Travis Etienne, current player, has the best as far as current players go. He's 7th on the list. In 2023, he had 11 touchdowns rushing, so not too bad. Really not too bad. Now, again, Tank Bigsby last season, not even the starter, started one game last season, but he ended up with 7 touchdowns rushing to lead the team. When you're looking at that and comparing it to the NFL, Derrick Henry, Jamar Gibbs, and James Cook all had 15 touchdowns rushing. So 7 doesn't cut it, puts you at 19th, tied for 19th as far as that goes. So hopefully to see a revival of the running game with Liam Cohen, who really upped the rushing game of Tampa Bay Buccaneers coming here. We'll see how he can improve the Jaguars rushing game, hopefully quite a bit. That's the hope. All right, so when we're looking at the receivers in a single season, as far as receptions go, only 3 times in the entire career or the entire history of the Jaguars has somebody even caught more than 100. Jimmy Smith in 1999 had 116, and then Evan Ingram in 2023 had 114. He really had 114 only because Christian Kirk got hurt, and they just started throwing the ball to Ingram all the time. And he's a good receiver, but I don't think he would have had anywhere near that if Christian Kirk had stayed healthy the entire season. So, and then Jimmy Smith again in 2001 had 112. Those are the only times. So 2 players, 3 times, the only players to have more than 100 receptions. Brian Thomas last season had 87, and I do fully expect him to, if not next season, maybe the one after, I do expect to see him breaking 100 receptions on a regular basis. It just seems the way they want to use him, I'm really hoping that's the case, but we'll see. As I said, Brian Thomas had 87 receptions. Last season, Jamar Chase led the NFL with 127. So as I was saying, only 3 times in the history of the Jaguars has a receiver had more than 100 receptions. Last season, 10 players had 100 or more receptions. So you would think, and with an extra game included, that this should not be something too difficult for Brian Thomas if he stays healthy. So like I said, Jamar Chase, 127. Amon-Ra St. Brown had 115. With his 87, Brian Thomas was tied for 16th in the NFL. Now, when it comes to yards, a little bit different. Jimmy Smith, though, this holds the record again in 1999 with 1,636 yards, which meant he averaged over 100 yards a game as far as receiving goes. Then Allen Robinson was second in 2015 with 1,400. Brian Thomas was 5th all-time now with 1,282 in his rookie season. So it'll be fun to watch if he can break the all-time record as far as receiving goes. We'll see. Jamar Chase had 1,708 yards, led the NFL last season. Brian Thomas was actually 3rd with 1,282, just behind, not just, Justin Jefferson had a pretty big edge over him. But those were the top three. And as I said, Brian Thomas, though, was a rookie. So very impressive, something exciting to look forward to as far as the Jaguars go. When you're looking at tight ends, Evan Ingram, obviously, like I said, had 114 to by far lead tight ends in receptions. I mean, Evan Ingram, again, had 73. That was the next best season. So he, as far as tight ends go, holds the top two spots. And then as far as running backs go, Leonard Fournette had 76 receptions one year in 2019 to lead the running backs. That's by far the best. Maurice Jones-Drew one year had 62, so big difference, but not bad. All right. And looking at touchdowns, Allen Robinson in 2015 had 14 touchdowns, which is quite a bit better than the second place people. There's 4 of them who had 10, and one of those 4 was Brian Thomas. First year, as I said, had 10. Alan Hearns in 2015 had 10. Mercedes Lewis, another tight end, had 10 in 2010. And Reggie Williams, 2007, had 10. So that was the best. Last season, Jamar Chase again. Between him and Chase and Burrows, quite a combo there. But he had 17 touchdown receptions. Justin Jefferson and Brian Thomas, as I said, had 10. Though, yeah, Terry McLaurin had 13. There's a couple more, but Brian Thomas finished 7th, tied for 6th, actually. All right, let's look at the defense, and we will start with interceptions. So in a single season, Rashean Mathis in 2006 had 8 interceptions, which is really good. A.J. Boyer, McCree, and Beasley all had 6. They came in second as far as that goes. So they led the team. Cisco, who is current player, was on the team, had 4. So did Ramsey in 2017, Cisco in 2023. No longer on the team, either one, but they would be the next. But Rashean Mathis had 8 in 2006. When you're looking at the Jaguars this past season, you had 6 players who had 1. That's it. Nobody had more than 1. And like I said, Cisco's gone. So really an area where the Jaguars need to improve. 6 interceptions as a team. So not really good. When you're looking at the entire NFL, Kirby Joseph for Detroit had 9 interceptions to lead the NFL. So when we're looking at tackles for loss in a single season, shifting over to that, tackles for loss, the record for the Jaguars is held by Calais Campbell in 2018. He had 20 tackles for loss. Josh Hines-Allen in 2023 had 17. No one came near that as far as the Jaguars go. Trayvon Walker had 13 and Josh Hines-Allen had 10 to lead the team as far as that goes. So really quite a drop-off. And again, like I said, no one seems to understand the coaches for the Jaguars as far as defense goes last season. So we'll just see how much of an improvement we see over that 2024 season when we get to 2025. As far as the entire NFL, Myles Garrett had 22 tackles for loss to lead the NFL. Trey Hendrickson had 19, as well as TJ Watt, both had 19. So with Trayvon Walker with his 13 was way down the list. It looks like he was at tied for 20th. So second half of the NFL as far as that goes. An area that really needs improvement. And the same goes in the sack department. Just a big drop off again. Last season, Trayvon Walker had 10.5 sacks, and Josh Hines-Allen had 8 to lead the team. The next best was Mason Smith with 3. So really another area that you had a big drop off. And so I'm bringing up the sacks leader here real quick. But as far as that goes, comparing those numbers to the rest of the NFL, that 10.5 is really poor. Actually puts him down, puts Trayvon Walker tied for 12th. So middle of the pack. Trey Hendrickson had 17.5. Myles Garrett had 14 to lead the NFL. So really, no one challenged any type of the all-time sack record. So wasn't a complete bust as far as that goes, but it's an area definitely where the Jaguars need to see improvement next season. And again, like I said, we'll just see with new coaching staff how things change. So looking at real quick, as far as sack leaders all time for the Jaguars, I had a little hiccup here I had to work through. But Josh Hines-Allen in 2023, so you see a huge drop-off. 2023 at 17.5. Last season he had 8. But he put on weight. He was asked to. Calais Campbell, second, he had 14.5 in 2017. Those are your top 2 all time. So we'll hope to see a big improvement over last year, and see if somebody can break that 17.5. That'd be tougher to break. But see 1 or 2 of these players move up at least into second spot. See Josh Hines-Allen get back up into a better sack total than he had last season. So that wraps up the Jacksonville Jaguars. We have one team left in the AFC South, and that's the Tennessee Titans, who finished last year. Jaguars were fighting them for number 1 pick. Not a category, again, where you want to be fighting to see who's going to be the number 1 pick. But we'll see what happens. And as I said, there's a lot of hope in Jacksonville. Whether it's ill-founded or not, we'll find out. With new coaching staff, some improved players, when you have 2 wide receivers, it could be elite. Again, everybody's hoping the idea, but we'll see what happens. I'm looking forward to seeing it in the upcoming seasons. Not too far away, a couple months before we'll see what happens. All right, that wraps up the Jaguars, as I said. I appreciate you listening. I'd appreciate it if you could like this or subscribe. Also, if you have any thoughts, comments, questions, or if you hear me say something that's inaccurate, let me know and I will correct it. But you can go to Facebook, X, or Instagram. Just go to Just the Stats NFL to find out to send me any kind of information. I appreciate it. So that is a wrap for this episode of Just the Stats NFL. So until next time, I am out.